Welcome to the demo video for Sprint 2 of the H2 work cycle. We are now 5 weeks into our 7-week work cycle, so let's check out the latest progress. One thing we've done here on the dashboard is update the text that is above and on the button here in the middle of the page. That's because we've had some users tell us that they were afraid to click that button because they thought it would start a deposit immediately. So hopefully this is a little friendlier and we'll fix that problem. One thing we've done is try to make it easier for people to understand when they have a draft of a collection in progress. So one thing we've added is that when someone logs into the application, they'll see this pop-up message if they have a collection in a draft state, asking them if they would like to continue working on that draft. A couple of other things that we've done to help make this more visible is that we've added some text on this page suggesting not just that the collections and the deposits are in progress, but saying please complete these things. And we've added the text that says draft behind the titles of collections on this dashboard that are in a draft state. One other thing that we're doing is that if a manager leaves a collection in a draft state for more than 2 weeks, they will get an email notification. Another thing that we've added to the dashboard, underneath whatever collections you may have on your dashboard, you'll see a link that says don't see an appropriate collection. And if the user clicks on that, it will take them into the help modal with the subject request access to another collection already selected. And when that is selected, we are displaying a list of several sort of general purpose collections that a wide variety of people can get access to, because these are the ones that people are most likely to need access to. So they can see those collections, they can click on the little eyes and see descriptions of these collections, and then request access to one of these. We also have I don't see an appropriate collection option and an option for library employees who need MARC records and so may need access to a free Eames collection or something like that. So let's look at some of the changes for collections specifically. One of the things we're now doing is that in the history table for collections, we're now displaying the comments that the user leaves on the collection when they are making new versions. And that's prefaced by the text that says what changed. Another thing that we've done is spend some time working on the collection participant functionality so that we now have validations that are making sure that the format of entries here matches the requirements for a SUNET ID. So if you enter something like a period that isn't allowed in a SUNET ID, we just remove it in hopes that people are more successful at finding users through this search. We also spent a fair amount of time on a very tricky problem that we were seeing where some collection managers just weren't able to add anyone at all via this SUNET ID search. And it turned out to be a problem with permissions where only administrators and collection creators had permission to add users here and other collection managers did not. So we have resolved that issue. Another thing that we've done is put in a check to make sure that collection managers aren't changing the release option for a collection to immediately if there are items in the collection that are embargoed. The result of that would be the immediate release of embargoed content, which is something that we don't want to happen. So if you try to do this, you will now get an error message that says, I can't do this because some items are embargoed. Let's now have a look at some things that we've done for items in particular. So let's take a look at this item. Some changes are to the display on this item view page. One of those is that if multiple email addresses are entered, we are now displaying those on separate lines to make them easier to read. Another thing that we've done is separate out the display of authors that are included in the citation and additional contributors. Before, these were all listed in one long list in the order that they were entered in the UI, but you couldn't tell which ones were authors and which ones were contributors. So we've made that much clearer here. Another thing that we've done is fix the display in the abstract section so that blank lines between paragraphs are displayed properly. And lastly, we've also added version comments to the history table for the items here as well. So let's take a look at a couple more things in the form itself. One thing we've done is added behind the name of every file on the item, the size and the date that it was uploaded. Another thing that we've done is add an option for users who are depositing large data sets and sending us files via Globus. If a user comes here and has talked to us about their 200 gigabyte files that they aren't going to be able to upload through the web application, that instead of uploading a file, they can check this box here and the form will let them submit without uploading a file. To make sure that people aren't checking this option and not talking to us about this, administrators of this application receive an email notification when anytime someone deposits an item with this option checked. And the last thing I want to show you here is that we have added trash can icons on the dates so that users can easily remove these dates. Before, if you wanted to remove, say, this date range, you'd have to go into each one of those boxes and clear out the entry. So this is going to be much quicker and easier for people to remove dates. One last thing that I'd like to mention is one of our sort of cleanup tasks that we had on our list to do during this work cycle was to get all of our items with DOIs moved into this application. This is just an example. It's not a lot to see, but in this particular collection, these 4 items here are ones that were created more than a year ago and had DOIs added to them, and they are now available here for users to be able to view and to update at their discretion. So that's it for this week. I'll be back in 2 weeks with a final demo video at the end of the work cycle. Thanks.